Hi, I'm Sam Miller, and this is Jack Stepke and Jack Sheehy, and we are interviewing Mr. Donald Jackson on December 13th, 2020 at 2 p.m.
So let's just start off again of when you were born and where.
My name is Donald Jackson, and I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1940.
Did you have any siblings? Were you the oldest or the youngest, or were you somewhere in the middle?
I was the oldest of five kids. My brother Gene, who's passed away, my sister Loretta, and the last two were Ackwin and Jackie. They were twins. They were the last ones born.
All right.
Did both your parents work or just your dad?
My dad worked most of the time. My mother went to work as we got a little older. She was a beautician in the city of Milwaukee. My dad worked for the Milwaukee Road since 1920.
All right.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, your dad worked for the Milwaukee Road. Do you have any fond memories of him working there?
Yes, as I told you, one 33rd and Stevenson, and I remember my dad coming up from the road, Milwaukee Road, which was off of 33rd and Canal, and he had on this railroad suit, and he had his pants were tied to not tied, but cuffed real tight at the bottom, and his arms cuffed on the thing, and he had the railroad cap on. I remember him coming up the hill as waiting for us to meet him.
You also mentioned that you grew up kind of around Marquette High School. Do you have any memories of what that neighborhood was like growing up, or any significant things that happened growing up in the neighborhood?
Oh yes, I don't know if you guys know it, but the place just to the west of Marquette High was a place called Pigsville, and that was that was inhabited by the Irish. The Irish also worked for the railroad. We lived in a place called The Hill, which was down the street. You know where Mount Vernon is. You know where St. Paul is. Right down from St. Paul was Stevenson, and right next to the railroad was Falk and Milwaukee Road. It was a very diverse neighborhood. We played at Merrill Park. You guys know where Merrill Park is?
Yeah.
Yeah, we play there.
Played at Merrill Park, played softball at Merrill Park. We used to go down to Marquette Stadium, and that's gone. Marquette Stadium was right there off of Merrill Park. That's where Marquette played football. Also in the valley was where the veterans home is. There was not a ski ramp, but a toboggan slide that went over the road. So you go from the top for Veterans Home of Veterans Administration down the road, right where the old stadium is.
You go over the road?
Huh?
You go over the road?
Over the road. It was really high. I don't know if over the road, right. And we used to climb up there in the summertime. That was forbidden, but we did it anyway.
You mentioned in the pre-interview that your family had some history in boxing. Can you elaborate on what that was like?
Oh, yes. You got to remember that the Urban League was the home of Baby Joe Gans. You can look that one up. He was quite famous for developing boxers in Milwaukee. And in the basement of the Urban League was the boxing ring. It was about big as you can catch, maybe about 2 or 3 rooms. That's it. That was it. and all the kids went down there to box. My cousin, who was Jackson, he was a heavyweight fighter. He didn't do too well, but the Urban League, Milwaukee Urban League's Golden Gloves, they won it every year. Every year for the Wisconsin State Championship, Urban League won the Golden Gloves Championship. Golden Gloves was an amateur boxing place where kids learned to box, and then the championship was the Golden Gloves.
Did you have any fond memories boxing growing up?
No, I did not box. It was a little too vicious for my taste because it was a tough sport.
Yeah.
But I used to go down there and watch them, and it was like, you know, the guys were boxing and it was spitting up blood and spitting in and Baby Joe Gans was screaming at him, hollering at him, but they were quite good. They were good. Billy Braggs, the Pitts brothers were boxers. I don't know if you guys know the Pitts brothers, but Billy Braggs was a boxer. These guys became quite good. Brooks, he boxed. He fought Muhammad Ali. In fact, rumor says that Brooks knocked Ali out one time as a sparring partner. I don't know. That's all rumor. So you can maybe look at it. His name was Eddie Brooks, sparring partner of Muhammad Ali.
So it was like the Golden Gloves, like a regional thing or like a citywide championship?
No, Golden Gloves was you won the champion. If you won the championship, you would go to the Nationals Golden Gloves Championship. And every year, Milwaukee Urban League won the Golden Gloves Championship. Then there was one on the South Side. I can't think of the one on the South Side's name. Ooh. But they were in the firehouse on 17th and Bruce, which was in the Valley also. Forgot the name of the guy who ran that one. But Milwaukee Urban League always won the championships. Every year they won the state championships as far as boxing was concerned.
Unbelievable.
The only other competition was Neopot, which was a reservation in northern Wisconsin, where the Indian boxers came from.
Like Native American?
Yes, you're right.
Gotcha. So correct me if I'm wrong, but during your time you were enrolled in First of Lloyd Street School and Brown Street School?
Right.
You have any like fond memories at either of those schools?
Yes, all my teachers were German.
Oh, really?
Mrs. Quant, Mrs. Biersov, Mr. McKenzie, Mr. Fink, they all had the German names. You got to remember, I lived in a very German neighborhood, really. It was German Jewish on 10th and Lloyd. And all the teachers were German or Jewish.
Do you have any long-lasting friendships from there?
Yes, my son often tells me, "Dad, you got friends that are quite old." You know, my friendships have lasted since very few of them are left, but our friendship has grown. Howard Fuller, James Kimball, Milton Johnson. I still play golf with some of these guys, but I've lost a lot of my friendships they have passed away.
It's unbelievable though. You still have some guys you met when you were in elementary school and you still
Yes, it is. We had good memories. We played softball together on Lavin Park. We traveled every park, like 12th Street, Seaford, Lappin Park, every park had a softball team. And so you traveled all over to play softball all over. And you met a lot of friends and you played a lot of softball.
During that time, were you on like the elementary school's softball team, or was there like club softball teams?
No, there was no club softball. This was a Milwaukee Rec department. Milwaukee Rec is a auxiliary, not an auxiliary, but an extension of MPS. And Milwaukee Rec had softball teams, all kinds of teams, chess teams, all that was going on that was providing activities for kids in the neighborhood, so that when I used to get, my mother used to whip me every time. She says, "Don, be home by so-and-so." Because every morning I'd get up, eat breakfast, I'd go to the park.
What are some of your favorite memories from like the summer, just going to like play baseball all day? Do you have any like special days that you remember that really stand out, where you guys like really got into some trouble? Or
we played softball every day, and we would always chip in to buy the softball, and we would buy it at Sears on Titonia and North. And we'd buy it, we usually buy it on Monday. Everybody give 20 cents. And I think it was, I don't know, $2.98 for a softball. And we go to Sears and buy our softball. And the thing was, if you hit the ball on the roof, you had to go on the roof and get it, because that was our only ball.
It's like the Sandlot.
But that was the trick. You could, if you hit the ball on the roof, you had to go get it. That was our only ball. That was the only thing. And we played all day. Forgot about lunch, forgot about dinner. And every day I get into trouble because I didn't come home.
And then you talked about kind of how you moved around a lot, and you talked about a lot of different houses and like schooling. Did that affect friendships in any ways, or schools? Did it make it harder or anything?
No, when I moved to 10th and Lloyd, all the friends that I had on 10th and Lloyd were around the neighborhood. We used to meet up and just walk to school together. I mean, we walked to school, school. We either went to Lloyd Street, Roosevelt, Brown Street, and then we all met up at either Lincoln High School or North Division High School. And we all stayed friends, and we're still friends.
At North Division High School in the 50s, when you were going there, the civil rights movements were also going on. Like, what do you remember from like the movements or participating in them?
No, in the 50s, there was no civil rights movement.
Or 60s, sorry.
The 60s, I was gone. 60s, I was in college. But in the 50s, I went to North Division. I remember, I can't think of the principal's name. He did not like black people. What is his name? Oh, not Culver. I'll think of it. But he didn't like black people. And he let that be. Oh, Mahalik. Mahalik was the principal at North Division. When I got there in 1954. And he didn't like black people. And you got to know it. I'll give you some instances. I know what happened during the civil rights movement and I think maybe your teacher can validate this, but there was a big lawsuit in the 60s to integrate the schools. And the reason that the NAAC won the suit is because the principal wrote a letter saying to all the white students, get your kids out of North Division because it's turning black. That's what the principal wrote to the white students.
So in a way, that was kind of like when they would do blockbusting and knock on people's houses and say like, "Oh, this person's moving into your neighborhood."
Yes. Oh, well, that happened in the late 50s, early 60s. You're right. When I first got married, me and Mrs. Jackson, Sam knows her. What's her name? Jessie. We rough time finding a place to live because people wouldn't rent to a young black couple. And I remember going door to door. I remember the real estate agents not wanting to show us the condominiums that were on 60th. I think it was Tower, 60th and Tower.
So they wouldn't show you those.
No, they would not show us those. You're right there. You're right there.
So going back to like high school, was North Division like predominantly African American, or was it a mixture, or what was it really?
No, it was mostly white.
Okay.
When I was in school, it was mostly white. Written in Newsweek by one of my classmates, Diana Reep, R-E-E-P. I hope you find it, I don't know. But it was a big, very controversial article about the changing of North Division High School.
Is that where it led to the principal writing that letter to the white students when African Americans?
Right. When I graduated, it was more than 50% white. When I came back from college in my second year, it had turned predominantly black. Right.
And then, so you talked about discrimination, and with Milwaukee being very segregated, though you said the area was diverse, did you face like racial discrimination like growing up and in high school?
I tell the truth. I didn't know what was going on really as a young guy. All I remember is when I look back and I figure out, oh, this is why this happened. This is why this. Then I were black, and you recognize discrimination when it was very overt, but you didn't recognize it when it was very subtle. I went to school and I didn't realize that if it had because I didn't know that the school had provided that. North Division never provided me the opportunity to take those exams. I took those exams at the Urban League. So that's how I ended up going to college.
Was that for like SAT and ACT?
SAT and ACT, right. So my counselor never told me, this is what you do. I wasn't a lousy student, you know, I was a pretty good student, really. And he never said, these are your opportunities. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. But when we participated in let's say a group around our neighborhood, the Urban League, they provided us the opportunity to do certain things. And that's how I ended up going to school.
I know you said your principal was very racist, but were there any or disliked African Americans, but were there any teachers at North Division that really helped you or you really liked?
Yes, there was a principal, there was a teacher. He was an All-American at University of Wisconsin, Ed Withers. And he was our gym teacher, and he gave us a sense of pride, a sense of belonging, a sense of neighborhood and everything else. In 1958, North Division won the state not the state championship. We ran Marquette. Marquette was the champions, but we just look it up, see who won that track meet, North Division or Marquette. I think you can guess.
North Division.
North Division, and Marquette was good. They were really good, but they ran us in 1958, and I think we hurt them.
Did you guys have like a rivalry with them, you could say?
Marquette? No, our rivalry was really Lincoln High School. You got to understand, when Ed Withers was one of the coaches at North Division, we had over 100 people out for track. So it was like when we went to the city, he only took 20. And when he went to the state, he took 10. That was it.
You also talked about how you were on like the track and swim team. Do you have any competition memories?
Oh yeah, we swam at the natatorium. I don't know if you guys know, but Milwaukee had natatoriums all over the city. They had about 6 or 7. They were all over. They were built during the Depression so that people could take baths and stuff like that. And we swam at 16th and North Avenue, which was a meter pool. And we used to have to walk there every single day, cold, winter, summer. We walked there. And every school had a swim team. Every school had a swim team. I don't remember a school that didn't have a swim team. And the schools that didn't have a swimming pool had an event called the Little City, and they competed. And then they had the Big City, where everybody competed, And the top-notch swimming schools were Pulaski and Boys Tech.
My grandfather swam at Pulaski in the 60s. Yeah.
They were good. Coach Royal was their coach. I think it was Coach Royal. So I might have known him.
I believe I have his jacket somewhere, his swimming varsity jacket.
Yeah.
Do you have any like favorite memories you'd want to share from high school that really stand out to you?
It was a good with a bunch of guys, and most of them went to school. Most of them were part of our, let's say, our clique. We played softball together. They went to a diverse university such as Harvard, University of Wisconsin, in Nashville, Tennessee. So they went all over. Not many of them went, a lot of them graduated and went into service and ended up going eventually at a later time to Vietnam.
Was it your older brother that was the track star?
No, it was my younger brother.
Oh, okay.
That was the baby. And tell the truth now, you got to understand, he was one of the first, I think he still holds the record for the 100-yard dash, because there is no more 100-yard dash. I think it's 9.6, something like that. But he went to Tech, and they were pretty fast in those days. They were like really fast, really fast. He went to the University of Wisconsin, and he was Big Ten champion for 2 years. I don't know what years, because I remember I was married because I took my oldest son to the track meet and and it was we were always going to the track meets at Wisconsin.
Did he ever like talk to you about like, did he face like what he faced as like An African American man trying to be an athlete?
No, he did not. He did not. In fact, one of his best friends was during his era in school was a white friend of his was called Craig Shearburn. I think it was Craig Shearburn, and he went to Nicolay High School. He was a fast dude. He was really fast, and they both went to Wisconsin together.
So they ran together at Wisconsin?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's cool. And then you also talked about Vel Phillips, who was an alum from North Division as well, and also a big civil rights activist. Do you have any memories of her or some?
My memories of Val is that she was an alderperson. She was the first woman alderman. She went to Howard University. She was she's one of the first Black graduates of North Division. But the reason I got to know her personally was because of her brother-in-law. You're going, I gotta think of his name. Milwaukee Fire Department. Her brother-in-law was one of the first Blacks. You got to understand, he graduated from the University of Wisconsin with a degree in business, and he had a rough time on the fire department as far as discrimination was concerned. I met him, and he used to tell me exactly what went on when he. Curry. Currie.
And where did you go to college again?
I went to Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. Why did I go there? They gave me the most money. That's exactly why I went there. It was very good for me. Very good for me. It was like an eye-opening thing for me. I was introduced to a Black middle class that I had never, because I didn't realize it was a differentiation in classes. I got to meet John Lewis, and you know him. He just passed away. He was a congressman from Alabama, but he was at Fisk and at the, I think I forgot the name of the seminary that was also in Nashville at the time. But also Diane Nash, who I think you're gonna catch me in a lie again. It's either Harvard or Princeton, but she transferred to Fisk, and she was a leader in the civil rights movement. And if you look at the movie Selma, Diane Nash played a prominent part in that. She was a confidant of Martin Luther King.
And so, I don't know if you can remember, but do you remember your first impressions when you stepped on the campus there, or what you thought when you got there, how it was so much different from Milwaukee, or what new things you experienced?
We didn't fly in those days, so we took the train. And so I carried a big suitcase, and the first thing I got off on the train, and I saw what in Milwaukee we call bubblers, the water fountains, colored and white. I said, holy cow, what am I in for here? But the campus was very, very beautiful. We stayed in the dorm. I think it was called Livingston Hall. It was an exciting time for me. I was the first one in my family to go to college. And so I know my mother and father struggled to send me. So it was like, you had to do well. There was no alternative.
Yeah. How did that feel for you, like knowing that you were the first one in the family to go to college? Like, did that make you, that must have made you feel pretty good. Like, did that motivate you to go further on and like get further on in life?
Yeah, yes, it did. Uh, when I used to look for jobs as a young man, and you would never be hired. There was thousands of jobs in Milwaukee. You know, Milwaukee was a bustling industrial center, but for blacks and for young blacks, it was there. So you ended up, something's going wrong here. For blacks, but something was. You never had that opportunity to develop those interpersonal connections or business connections so that you could advance. You had to do it on your own because you were never given that opportunity.
Yeah.
So during college, were you a part of like any organizations or sports teams or anything that like any recall like clubs, anything?
Yes, became a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, which is the oldest black fraternity in the United States.
Wow.
I ran track. I ran against. Now you got to understand. Southern and.
Could you repeat that? You cut out.
Huh?
Could you repeat that? What you said?
I said when I went to Fisk, they had a track team, so I joined the track team, and we ran against schools such as Texas Southern, Tennessee State, Central Ohio, and you got to understand, Florida A&M, these schools were better than the Big Ten schools. They were faster and much better. I understand that when I was in school, the most pro football players came from Notre Dame. Second most came from, I think it was not Florida A&M. I think it was the one in Louisiana. Out of all the schools in the United States, this small black school produced the second most pro football players. That's where everybody went to play. When you ran against them guys, you first went to Ohio, Central Ohio, and he wasn't the fastest guy on their team. When he came to Wisconsin, he was a Big Ten champ.
And then I don't know if it was while you were in college, it was maybe a little after, but in 1967, there was riots like across the country. You called it the media riot. Do you remember participating in that or having to work during that?
Yes, let me see. You're going to catch me? I don't know. I think it was on a Sunday. I think I was working, and I was working at Engine 2. Engine 2 is at 7th and Wells. And they marched up. At that time, it was called 3rd Street, not Martin Luther King. And that was the beginning of what we call the riots in Milwaukee. Burned down, houses were being burned down, people being shot at, but it was nothing compared to Detroit, Los Angeles, or Washington, D.C. It was like, no, it was nothing. That's why that article I hope you found it, I don't know. But it was called, I think a guy from the New York Times came in and called it, they had blown it out of proportion. That's why he called it the media riot. It was a riot written by the people who wrote it, because it was not as big when they compared it to Detroit, Los Angeles, or Cleveland, or some other big city. It was like nothing compared. It was a little rough time for us as far as the city of Milwaukee. The city of Milwaukee was shut down, and it was like, okay, this is it.
And I just want to go back to college quickly while we're by it. You mentioned Alpha Phi Alpha. Are there any of those brothers that you were with that you're still friends with today?
Dr. Finlayson was a schoolmate. Dr. Finlayson, who was in Milwaukee, he bought Martin Luther King to Milwaukee. Martin Luther King was in Alpha Phi, is a member of Alpha Phi, was a member.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. And if you go down to the Performing Arts Center, there's a statue, not a statue, there's a bust of Duke Ellington, paid for by the club that I belong to, Milwaukee Frontiers. Club, yes. Who else is in Alpha Phi Alpha? Most of them are passed away, really.
But lots of friends that you met that were friends for life.
Yes, my Alpha friends are really from college. My Alpha friends here are just as my college friends.
So going back to the media riots in 1967, so they weren't as bad as the media said. They were just created, and the story was created. Okay.
So you picked up on that. Really, that's true. And I was working at that time. I was working on Engine 2. I thought it was horrible. But when you look at the perspective, it was not as big as people made it out to be. Because there were big articles, and I don't know who wrote the articles. 8,000, not 8,000, maybe 4,000 homes burned, but it was like, it was nothing, really, not 4,000, because it was 4,000 fires, maybe 2 or 3 in one building, but not 4,000 homes burned. When somebody came to investigate, and the media said, hey, that's why they called it a media riot, because it really wasn't that big a thing. People died, people were shot, not to, make light of what had happened, but it wasn't as big as really as Washington, D.C., Detroit, or Los Angeles. Nothing like it.
So it was like, regardless of what you experienced, the media kind of like blew it up out of proportion.
I don't know if they or they didn't know. I have no idea. But I think in 1967 we went to the graduation of my sister-in-law, and she graduated from med school in Washington, D.C. That was a riot. I mean, blocks were gone. Blocks were gone. It was like Berlin in 1945. It was like, only thing that went through there was like bulldozer where they swept the rubble to the sides of the street. So it was like, that was really a riot.
So like mass destruction?
Mass destruction, right. When you look at Detroit, when you look at Washington, D.C., that was like really riots. In Milwaukee, it was like, okay, it happened, but it wasn't as the other big cities.
Did you guys believe that you were the size of like Washington and LA and those other cities though?
When you're there, you think this is horrible, because people were throwing rocks at you. Mm-hmm. You were getting shot at. You were going out. I ain't gonna tell you, I don't know how many times a day you were going. I'd smell like smoke every day, and no matter what you do, you shower and you start sweating, you would smell like smoke every single day. It'd take 2 days to get rid of that smell off of your body. But I thought it was horrible until I experienced what really was really going on in the country at that particular time.
Were you a part of the fire department at that time or no, not yet?
Yes, I was part of the fire department at that time. I was a firefighter at Engine 2.
Okay.
And I was there the first day. I know I was there the first day.
How did it make you feel knowing that like other people of the fire department that you worked with were on like the other sides of that riot?
Well, I understood. You got to understand. When I walked into the fire department in 1964, they're going to catch me in a lie. I got it. I got some notes over there someplace, but there was only 4 or 5 blacks in an 11-man department. So I understood where everybody was coming from. I understood their, if you listen to them, like you can understand their rhetoric. Really, what they were talking about was a racial issue, and that was long before '67. I understood exactly what they were saying, in the conversation. In fact, the wife and I used, what did the wife says? You got to stay here because you got 2 mouths to feed. She was talking about herself and my son. She says, you can't move, you can't change. You're gonna, says you got 2 mouths to feed. And so, because I used to come home depressed because this is the language that they were talking. And it was a subtle way of letting, no, not a subtle, it was a way of knowing that, and I used to think, oh, these people are Lutheran, these are Catholics, and they think like that. What kind of BS is this?
Yeah, it must have been so degrading just to have that put on you every single day.
And every single day, it was very depressing. It was very depressing. And if it hadn't been for her, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah,
I had to come back and talk to somebody. So I came back and talked to the lady I lived with, my wife.
So where did you two meet, you and your wife?
Guess what? Give me what club where we met. Guess. Where I did it.
Alpha Phi.
League. The guy who formed our club, our of the seniors, he formed a club of tomorrow's science and teachers. It was called TST. Mm-hmm. And all the kids who went to school met there when they came back. So we had a big party, and that's where I met her.
And then when did you guys get married and where?
We got married in Milwaukee, and we were married in, you can catch me in a lie, I think it was not 64, 62. 50 years was over. I think it was 1962. And that's when we, when we were trying to find a place to live. That was a rough way to go. But I'm gonna give you an instance. The electric company and the electric company, it was called not the Power, Wisconsin Power. The electric company and the gas company and the telephone company made blacks pay a deposit. And the only reason I found out is because my upstairs neighbor was saying, "What deposit are you talking about?" And I said, everybody pays a deposit to get the electric, gas. And she says, "No, I don't pay." She was white. And that was, so maybe you can research that. The deposits that the power companies made blacks pay for hooking up to the system.
So they made African Americans pay for the power and the being hooked up to the system, and the white Americans didn't have to do it?
No, they paid for a deposit. Like, okay, you and I would go down to the electric company and say, "I want you to hook the power up to my house. It will bill you every month." I would go down and they would say, "Yes, we'll bill you every month, but you got to pay a $50 deposit."
So was that because they didn't think you would pay for it, or why would they do that?
I have no idea, but that ended real quickly.
Okay.
What did your wife do for a living?
She,
Can you repeat that? It cut out.
police department.
Ah,
Before that, she worked for the state of Wisconsin. When we first got married, I don't know. I don't know if she worked for the state of Wisconsin, and then she went to the police department as a clerk typist. She stayed there until I think my last son was born, which was, I don't know when he was born. But
when she was on the police department, did she face any discrimination?
yeah, she went through the whole thing of the police attitude and stuff like that. She was, I think she was the only black at the police department at that particular time. But I don't remember.
Because I feel like you two would be going through very similar experiences with the fire department.
Mine was a little more because she came home every day. See, I didn't come home every day.
That is true.
I stayed there. I slept there. I ate there. Everything was, there. I was there.
That's your environment.
That's my environment.
And like, as for her working like during the civil rights protests and her having to almost like fight back against the civil rights protests, could you say that would be hard for her?
That was hard for her because one, she knew what was going on, and they came to pick her up every day to bring her to work. The police department came to pick her up every single day. We lived on 2500 block in Hubbard, which is between Wright and Clark on Hubbard. And they came to pick her up every day to take her to work because buses weren't running and stuff like that.
Yep.
So as like a young African-American couple, when you first purchased a property together, like how was that experience like around Milwaukee?
We purchased our first house, and you're gonna catch me. I think it was 66 or 60 something like that. 90. We knew where we wanted to live, and it was not that difficult. It was in a black neighborhood. Difficult for us to purchase the property. But when we first got married, finding a place to live was very difficult. Very difficult. It was like nobody would talk to you. I remember when we wanted to move, and as I said, I think it's 60th and Tower, 60th and where? I forgot. It's up there by Milwaukee Country Club. But those condominiums were all white, and they were brand new at the time. Yeah, they would not show us in the ass. I still remember the realtor. I think I remember the real estate company that owned them. That they wouldn't show them to us, and they were young just like us. The salesmen and sales ladies were just young people like us, but they wouldn't show us the condos. I'm glad they didn't, because I'm glad I didn't buy one there.
So it sounds like you were happy with the neighborhood you moved into.
Oh God, we were happy. Those houses are fabulous. If you go there and look now, when our first house was that we bought was on 15th and Free Bronze. Brick. It was brick, 2-story, two-car garage. It was a beautiful home. And those homes are still beautiful. If you go there, it's in the Rufus King neighborhood. If you've ever been to Rufus King, that's where we lived. That was in our first neighborhood. That was our first home.
Not too far from Marquette.
Yeah, Rufus
Yeah,
King?
Yeah, it's not too far.
Well, you say so. I thought it was really far.
And then, so yeah, we actually learned about like that redlining in class.
Yes.
Is that what you experienced with those realtors? Like they almost tried to force you into certain neighborhoods?
Yes. Now you understand too, my dad bought his home. You're going to catch me. I know he bought it before 1947. I know he bought it. But he was forced, and he couldn't get a loan. even though his work record was there. So he had to go through what they call a land contract, where the owner sold a house to my dad. And that's how he bought his first house. I don't know if I realize, I don't think there was too much redlining in '66 because the civil rights movement came about in '67 or something like that. So, and there was a lot of trying to clean up their act, really.
Yeah.
Did you have any children? And if so, how many of them did you have?
I had three, Tim, Ty, and Todd. They're all swimmers. One graduate works for Milwaukee Rec right now. They're all, one is in Milwaukee and one is in Alexandria, Virginia. So, and the other one, the middle one passed away. The middle one is the one that was the first black to win the state championship, first black to win a national championship.
Oh, really?
He held the record at Schrader for years.
That was for swimming?
Yes. So now that's another story. We had issues trying to get him on a swim club. You know, it's like, oh, how are we going to get certain swim clubs would not let us in. I figured it out later why. So, but at that time there was a swim club called the Panthers at UWM, Fred Russell, and so that's how we got into a swim club, and then we moved over to Schrader.
How proud of you, or how proud of you were of him were you when he won the national championship?
I didn't go. My wife went, but she was really proud because he made Sports Illustrated. At that same time, there was an article. The guy from the Dodgers, I forget his name. He said blacks couldn't swim because they're built differently. That was it. That was his statement.
And then he won nationals.
Who?
And then he won nationals.
Then my son won nationals that same year. I forget the guy's name. Maybe your teacher knows. I don't know. It was a Dodger. One of the Dodgers general managers or something like that.
That's like totally like he proved him so wrong now.
Yes, and somebody brought it up. So yeah. There's and I think I got the magazine. I don't know. My wife's got everything. I don't know. She keeps everything. But we got that article in Sports Illustrated.
That's unbelievable. In Sports Illustrated.
Huh?
That's crazy.
Bavasi is the name of the guy from the Dodgers, right?
How did you decide to keep, like, you raise your children in Milwaukee? Like, was there a specific thing you just didn't want to leave because of work and stuff?
Really from work, just work. I was very successful as firefighter to assistant chief. So it was like, okay, I never had economic problems or problems to deal with. So I was successful at what I did. So I stayed in Milwaukee.
Did you find like you had a fond love for Milwaukee after being raised there and then having an adult life there as well?
Yeah, Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a place that you can grow up in. You can, and it was a place of neighborhoods at one time, but I think the disparity in economics has social fabric of our city. You got to understand, my dad, when he was growing up, as I told you before, Milwaukee's economics, there was no difference between black or whites economically. If you were a black in Milwaukee, you earned a good job because that industrial base is gone. There's an article written, I don't know who it's written by, but it's called the Beer Line Route. It's about the blacks and the growth of Milwaukee's industrial community. The beer line, I'll call it something. It's in the Milwaukee Journal. And the reason I know about it is because my dad's name was mentioned in it. Sylvester Jackson, and how he raised his kids and what happened and what went on. But as I said before, Milwaukee's economics was second only to Detroit as far as blacks were concerned, as earning a living wage. I don't know if that's true now. I have no idea.
Yep, I don't know.
I don't think so.
And then back to like the beginning of your career, right out of college, what was your first job when you got out of college?
First, no. I quit school and I became a forester, and then I got married, and then I went to the fire department because I failed the police test. Most of my friends are policemen. Milton Johnson, Bill Wade, all the guys I went to school with, they all became policemen, except Moy. I became a fireman. They said, you made the best move. That's what they say. They said, you made the best move. But all of them were policemen.
You mentioned in the last week that you said like that was the best thing, like one of the best things that ever happened to you. You failed the test.
Yes. I failed it because I was underweight, believe it or not. But all of those guys passed. And so I took the fire department test, and guess what? I passed it. And it was a great experience for me. Living wage, I had income security, and I got promoted and grew with the job.
And back to when you were talking about the college stuff and finding a job, I know you said it was hard to find a job, even though there were thousands of jobs in Milwaukee. Like, what sort of discrimination did you face?
It was just a subtle discrimination. Well, we really don't have a place for you really at this time. You know, here's an exam that you can take. Now, I knew I passed the exam because it's like, this exam is easy, really. What are you saying? Yeah, you didn't pass the exam. Yeah, right. I didn't pass the exam. Yeah, it was very subtle and just different. You know, a lot of my friends who grew up with me in Milwaukee, they got those connections. They worked for Burrow Machine. Burrow, you wouldn't know about Burrow Machine. That was a computer company that was here. Square D. There was a place in Louis Alice on the south side. Milwaukee had a lot of great jobs. I'm talking about machining jobs, architectural jobs, a lot of great jobs were here. But none of those companies, even Falk, which was a big company in Milwaukee, they didn't hire blacks, but they had blacks on their basketball team, blacks on their softball hardball team, but they didn't have blacks working for them in their companies. Falk, when my dad came here, Alice Chalmers wouldn't hire him, A.L. Smith wouldn't hire him. The only place that would hire him was the Milwaukee Road because they had a lower salary. But it worked out well for him because he worked right during the Depression. During the Depression, he worked right straight through. So that So that economic disadvantage became an economic advantage for them.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking about A.O. Smith, if I recall, you worked for them for a period of time, right?
Yes.
How was that experience?
Hard work, big money. Hard work, but you got to understand that place was going 24 hours a day, every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
There was thousands of people working there. I mean, like thousands, big parking lots. And I was a young kid, and I couldn't spend my money because I was always tired. You know, I was just tired. I was exhausted.
We learned about that in class, how everyone had not enough time and too much money because you just worked and worked and you didn't even have the time to spend them.
Right. I couldn't spend my money. I was like, oh, when it's time to go back to school, I ran back to school. My brother worked for the railroad. He was disassembling boxcars, which was a hard job because it was in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the cutting torch, and he says, strap. When it was time to go back to school, he ran. He ran back to school.
Yeah. And then you mentioned also your career as a firefighter in the Milwaukee Fire Department. And what are some of your fond memories from working in the fire department? I'm sure you have many.
I can give you the bad parts. I was bad part. First bad part was I was overcome on Christmas Eve. I don't know what year it was, but they sent me home, and of course the guy says, "You just got hurt because it's Christmas Eve." So they sent me home. I went home on Christmas Eve. I think it was on Galena Street. I was overcome by smoke, and I was out for a little while. And then another one, I was hit by a car on 37th and Valete. It caused me to lose a year off the department because I had a ACL, anterior cruciate broken leg, the whole ball of wax. Then I was overcome. Then I cut my finger really bad on Blue Mound. And what else? Was I blown out of the building? I don't know if I was blown out of the building or not. I don't know. But I had to go home on another one. But those are my instances of bad. But as far as positive, once you get to be a part of a group, a social group, you are. It reinforces your attitudes. It reinforces on how you're going to do things. Despite the discrimination, there were some very positive people working for the fire department that saw potential in I've stuck with that job.
So it sounds like even though that environment wasn't the best at times, you're able to find a group to rely on and get you through it.
You have to. I don't think as human beings you can survive isolated.
Yeah.
So you and help you out, when you need it. Those things, as human beings, we need that type of environment, and we need that type of support.
Yeah, and that must be tough when you have to live there sometimes too.
Yes, it was. But you got to understand, as a Black person, you have to. Every day you get up and you go to a different environment, a white environment, you have to understand that this is what's going to happen. And you have to adjust to that. And you have to have some type of armor that you have to deal with every single day.
It's almost something you have to learn to deal with in a.
You have to deal with it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I told my son, one of my sons, he said, whatever you do, understand that when it comes, the nit comes to tack, it's you. If it comes choice between me or Sam, I come first. If it comes with choice, that's the way life is. And you gotta understand that. He said, Dad, you're right.
So you were 1 out of 6 African Americans on a 1,000-ish fire team?
Right. He won for years. Didn't see a, because you gotta understand, we worked 3 shifts, and there was 50 something. So that means there's 300 guys on each shift. So your chances of seeing one of the other ones was like none and slim, unless it was a big fire someplace, and then you finally saw the guys who I'm talking about was like, now there wasn't 6 there when I got there.
Mm-hmm.
It was on no, because Green had left, Curry had left. It was only Graham, Bender, four of us in the whole department. That was in 1962.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta, wow.
I think you said there was 6 of you in 66 and 67 or something like that.
I got, let me look. I got a lot of stuff for you guys. But I got Mrs. She took care of it. Yep, there were 5.
Including yourself?
Yes, 5.
You also talked about how you tried to do some groups almost, or to try to make the fire department more inclusive with hiring minorities. How did you use your position, or what groups did you try to pass?
I don't know if you can see this. Can you see
Yeah.
that handsome guy by the fire net?
Yeah.
That's me.
All right. In front of it?
That was in the Milwaukee Journal. That was the attempt of the Milwaukee Fire Department to recruit blacks. That was in December. But that was the effort for the Milwaukee Fire Department to hire blacks. And when I got to be assistant chief, we formed a group, and it's a hybrid. The group they have now is called the Fire Cadets. We started that in 1991, 92, but it was not as sophisticated as it is now. To make a change in the fire department, it takes a lot of effort, because it's a bureaucracy. It has a lot of layers. You have to do a lot of things. It's like changing the direction of a ship. You just don't change it. We're gonna do this. No, you don't. You gotta go through some steps.
It was a long process.
It's a long process.
Okay.
And the cadets that they have now, I think is because I don't visit the fire department anymore, I think it's a direct result of what we tried to put together in the 90s.
It's pretty cool to see something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool
that
you did. Go ahead, Jack.
When you look back on the fire department now, and you see all the progress and how far they've came, do you feel responsible for that too? And feel like you actually really made a change too?
I don't know if I can take credit. I want to, you know, if I get a chance, I'll stick my chest out. There was progress made. You got to understand, you know, if nobody initiates that process, it doesn't happen. It could have stayed just like it was, you know, but somebody took an interest, somebody worked on it, and put together a program. You guys didn't see my mural on 17th and Walnut, did you?
Where is
I haven't seen that.
At the House of Peace. Go look at the mural. I'm on that mural. Good God, you guys.
I'll go check it out.
17th and Walnut. I'm on the Walnut Street side.
All right.
And I think I got a baseball cap on. I think I do.
We will find it.
Yeah.
That wait, so what is it? Is it just a mural of you? Or is it like entire?
No, it's a mural of blacks in Milwaukee who made a change, who made a difference.
That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty sweet.
That's pretty cool.
Good shit.
So between you and your son, it sounds like you two were really able to make a change and move some things.
I don't know. I work on things now. I still mentor, not mentor. I still do things at North Division High School. My son was just a gifted athlete. He could dunk a basketball at 7th, 8th grade. He could hit a golf ball farther than me, and he didn't know what he was doing. It was like, you know, some people have it, some people don't. He was just that gifted. He was gifted. He could do anything athletically he determined to do. He said, yeah, this is nothing. I'll figure out how to do that. He won the state championship in the 500. And then the next year he won the national in the 50. And Sam knows you don't go from a 500 to a 50.
No, definitely.
No, but he hated the 500. But he could do it all, you know, he was just that good.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
So like over the time you've seen the fire department, have you seen like a significant change? I mean, I sure hope you have, but like, have you really seen a significant change?
Oh God, you would not believe the change.
Okay.
When I was there, like in administration, I was the only black in administration. Now they got, I was the first captain, first battalion, first deputy, and the first assistant chief in the Milwaukee Fire, black in the Milwaukee Fire Department. And now they're, you know, those numbers are like, they're there.
Yeah.
So there was a big change.
Yeah, that's good.
And when I was there was no women. Was that because of I want to ask you guys that question. Was it because of bias of gender, or was it because of the women?
Could you repeat the question? You kind of lagged out.
When the women came on the fire department,
Mm-hmm.
Why were they denied? You know, why weren't women allowed on the fire department? Gender bias, or they couldn't do the job?
Gender bias.
Yeah, for sure, gender bias.
No, you're right. Because the women that we had on the fire department would play softball against them. They used to just kick our rear end. They were just like, oh my God. They were just awesome people. Just awesome. You would not believe how good they were. It's just, it was gender bias. Gender bias.
Mr. Jackson, is this the picture of you on the wall? On the
Yes! Let me see it.
Is it you in the suit?
They got a new one. The lady next to me is in the white. That's my sister-in-law, Dr. McLean. Yes, that's me in the suit. That's an old picture. There's a new one up there.
Yeah, there's a more colorful one now, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm still in there, but I don't have the suit on. How did you do that?
We looked it up. I'm trying to find the. Oh, I found you. Here you are.
Yes, that's the new one. That's the new one,
That's
right? That's the new one. That's when I was playing golf. I was good. Okay.
That's cool. And then, so during your many years as a fireman, what was one of the most important lessons that you've learned?
I learned that you do the best you can every single day that you go to, if you when you're doing something. You may not be the best at what you do, but you do the best you can. And what happens to you is that somebody recognizes your efforts. They don't recognize, everybody's not going to. If you give it everything you got, somebody will recognize that and allow you to make progress.
Yeah,
when I
right.
was on, my fire department experience allowed me to become members of boards. When I retired, I became members of different boards. I sat on city boards. That was because people asked me to help as far as doing other things. So people recognize what you do, even though you may not think it. You may be doing something that you think is not too utterly important, but somebody recognizes your efforts and recognizes what you're all about. And that will be paid duly in the future sometime. Somebody will recognize your efforts.
And how old were you when you retired from the fire department?
55.
Ah.
55.
And for what reason?
Her and I sat down and we figured out, what will it take us to enjoy life? We have no kids here. Do we have enough money? She says, yes. I said, okay, we're out of here, sweetie. And so we left. I left.
All right, and then we are low on questions. Is there any other stuff you would like to share or to show for my teacher or the people that will view this?
You got to show this. This is my sign that they gave me when I first. Everybody had this in front of their desk. This is 1964.
That's 1964.
Yes, everybody got this sign. And, you had a sign in front of your desk. I'm going to show you this picture as soon as I find it. Oh, this was a fire on. You can't see it, can you?
Yeah, we can kind of see it.
Yeah.
And that's me sitting in the corner, breathing hard. That's when we had all rubber goods.
Mm-hmm.
We had a basement fire there. I think that was when all those guys there. Ulatowski, they're all dead. Oh my God, that must be old. Must be old. But that was, my wife keeps all this stuff. Oh, I don't know where it's at. Oh, now this is a picture of they made a movie in Milwaukee, and I was part of the scuba team, and they were doing, it was called Gaily Gaily.
I'm sure our teacher will know about that.
Gaily, and that was it was taken on the Milwaukee River, and they were jumping off the bridges, and so they had to have the scuba team in the water at that particular time, and I was part of the scuba. This is when I was assistant chief. I don't know what I was doing, but you can't see it, can you?
We can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Were you scuba trained?
I was scuba trained. I was scuba trained as part of the fire department underwater recovery team.
Mhm.
We traveled all over the state of Wisconsin looking for people who have died. We dove in the lake quite often, down to some of the wreckages. It was quite an experience for me.
My uncle is scuba trained for the FBI.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's not like going to the Bahamas or going to the Great Barrier Reef and scuba diving. No, because you don't see
Cool,
shit.
though.
Yeah, you see nothing. You
Mhm.
see nothing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
All right, I'll
thank
send you the bill, guys.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we'll get you the thank you card and everything. And yeah,
Do I have to sign a release or something that release you sent?
yeah, I think you do need to do the consent form. I will.
I'll sign that and send it back to you.
Okay, yeah, and then I'll give it to my teacher.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.